In a narrow cottage made of stone and moss lived a poor woodcutter with his two daughters. The elder daughter, Brina, was tall and sharp-eyed, her voice often harsh and impatient. Her heart was filled with pride, and her thoughts rarely wandered beyond herself. The younger daughter, Elira, was gentle and soft-spoken. Her eyes reflected kindness, and her presence brought warmth even on the coldest days. After the death of their mother, the woodcutter had married again, but fate had been unkind. Elira's stepmother favored Brina deeply, while Elira was treated little better than a servant. From sunrise to sunset, Elira worked. She swept the floors, fetched water, cooked meals, washed clothes, and carried firewood, all while Brina sat near the hearth, mocking her sister and complaining of imagined discomforts. Yet, Elira never raised her voice. She never answered cruelty with cruelty. She believed quietly that kindness would one day return to her. One chilly morning, the stepmother handed Elira an empty pitcher. "Go to the forest well," she ordered sharply, "and don't return until it's full." The forest was deep and old. Tall trees stretched toward the sky, their branches tangled like ancient thoughts. As Elira walked, frost crunched beneath her feet, and birds fluttered overhead. Though tired, she hummed softly, letting the forest hear her song. At the old stone well, she knelt and filled her pitcher. Just then she heard a faint voice. "Child, may I have a sip of what?" Elira turned to see an old woman, bent with age, leaning heavily on a staff. Her clothes were worn, her face lined with years. Without hesitation, Elira smiled. "Of course, grandmother," she said gently. She poured the clearest water into a cup, held it steady, and waited patiently as the woman drank. The old woman's eyes gleamed with something ancient and powerful. "You are kind," she said softly, "and kindness is rare." In a sudden shimmer of light, the old woman stood tall and radiant. Her rags became robes of moonlight. Her staff turned to silver. She was a fairy, guardian of kindness and truth. "For your gentle heart," the fairy said, "you shall be rewarded." She touched Elira's lips lightly. "From this day forward, every time you speak, diamonds, pearls, and precious gems shall fall from your mouth." With a soft laugh like chiming bells, the fairy vanished. Elira stood trembling, unsure whether it had been a dream. When Elira returned home and greeted her stepmother, something extraordinary happened. As she spoke, diamonds fell at her feet. Pearls rolled across the floor, the cottage filled with light. The stepmother gasped. Brina stared in disbelief. Greed flickered in their eyes. "How did this happen?" the stepmother demanded. Elira explained gently. From that moment on, their hearts changed, but not for the better. When the last diamond stopped rolling across the cold stone floor, the cottage fell into an uneasy silence. The fire crackled softly, reflecting 1,000 tiny sparks in the scattered gems. The stepmother bent down slowly, her breath quickening as she gathered the jewels into her apron. Her fingers trembled, not with awe, but with hunger. Each diamond she touched fed her growing greed, and in her heart, wonder was quickly replaced by desire. She did not ask Elira how she felt, nor did she question the strange magic that had appeared so suddenly. Her mind raced only with thoughts of wealth, of power, of a life no longer bound by poverty. Her eyes darted toward Brina, sharp and commanding. "Your sister is not special," she said in a low, urgent voice. "If she has been given such a gift, then you must have it too, perhaps even greater. Go to the forest at once. Find the woman Elira met. Ask her for what your sister received. Do not return without it." Brina felt her chest tighten with envy. The memory of diamonds spilling from Elira's lips burned in her mind like an insult. Without a word, she seized an empty pitcher and stormed out of the cottage, her steps heavy and impatient. She did not glance back, nor did she pause to wonder whether such magic might demand kindness in return. The forest greeted her coldly. The deeper Brina walked, the darker the path became. The trees rose tall and silent, their branches tangled like warning signs she refused to read. At last, she reached the old stone well. As she leaned forward to draw water, a frail voice spoke behind her. "Good child," the voice said gently. "May I have a sip of water?" Brina turned and saw an old woman, bent with age, leaning upon a staff. Her clothes were worn, her hands trembling as she held out a small cup. Annoyance curled Brina's lips. "Why should I serve you?" she snapped. "Fetch it yourself. I am no helper to beggars." At once, the forest fell silent. The air grew still, heavy with unseen power. The old woman straightened slowly, her weakness melting away. Her eyes flashed with ancient light as her rags transformed into robes that shimmered like storm clouds. She was no beggar, but a fairy, ancient and watchful. "I asked for kindness," the fairy said, her voice echoing through the trees. "And you answered with cruelty." She stepped forward and touched Brina's mouth. "From this moment onward," she declared, "every word you speak shall reveal what lives within your heart." Before Brina could cry out, the fairy vanished like mist. Terrified, Brina ran back through the forest and burst into the cottage, opening her mouth to call for her mother. But instead of words, a fat, slimy toad fell from her lips, striking the floor with a wet thud. Brina screamed, and with that scream, snakes and crawling creatures spilled forth, slithering across the stone. The stepmother staggered back in horror as Brina collapsed to her knees, clutching her mouth in despair. Her envy poisoned the household. The stepmother blamed Elira for everything. "You are cursed," she shouted. "You will bring ruin upon us." That night, Elira was cast out alone into the forest, carrying only hope and a quiet prayer. Days passed. Elira slept beneath trees and drank from streams. She spoke little, afraid her diamonds would attract danger. Yet animals gathered around her. Birds sang. Deer watched peacefully. Kindness had made her part of the forest itself. One afternoon, the sound of horses echoed through the trees. It was Prince Aaron, known throughout the kingdom for his wisdom and compassion. He saw Elira by the stream. "Who are you, child of the forest?" he asked gently. She told her story. Diamonds sparkled, but her humility shone brighter. Prince Aaron did not rush Elira into the palace. He understood that her heart was gentle and cautious, shaped by years of hardship. They traveled slowly, passing golden fields and quiet villages. Wherever Elira spoke, her words fell like blessings, small diamonds glimmering in the dust. Yet she gathered them carefully and gave them away to the poor. Prince Aaron watched silently. In that silence, love began to grow. Not loud, not sudden, but deep and true. The palace rose like a dream carved from white stone. Tall towers touched the sky, and banners fluttered in the wind. Elira hesitated at the gates. "I do not belong here," she whispered. Prince Aaron smiled gently. "Kind hearts belong everywhere," he replied. Hand in hand, they stepped inside. In the grand hall sat King Aldrin, wise and silver-haired, and Queen Celine, graceful and warm-eyed. Prince Aaron bowed respectfully. "Father, Mother," he said, "I wish to introduce you to Elira." Elira knelt nervously, her voice trembling. "Your Majesties." As she spoke, pearls and diamonds fell softly onto the marble floor. The guards gasped, but Queen Celine raised her hand. "Let her speak," she said gently. Elira told her story, the cruelty, the fairy, the forest, and the kindness she never abandoned. By the end, the queen's eyes glistened with tears. Queen Selene stepped down from the throne and lifted Alira to her feet. "My child," she said softly, "magic may create diamonds, but only kindness creates queens." King Aldrin nodded. "A kingdom built on compassion will never fall," he said. Prince Aaron looked at Alira then, not as a rescued girl, but as his equal. In the palace gardens beneath moonlight, Prince Aaron spoke from his heart. "Alira," he said, "I do not love you for your gift of jewels. I love you for your gift of kindness." Alira's voice trembled. "I have known only hardship," she said. "But with you, I feel hope." When she said hope, a single diamond fell clear and flawless. Prince Aaron smiled. "That," he said, "is love." Before the entire court, Prince Aaron knelt. "Alira," he declared, "will you walk beside me, not just as my wife, but as the future queen of this land?" Alira bowed her head, tears shining like pearls. "Yes," she whispered. The palace bells rang. The wedding was celebrated across the kingdom. Flowers lined the streets. Lanterns glowed like stars. Music filled the air. Alira wore a gown as simple as her heart, woven with soft silver thread. No crown weighed her head yet. When she spoke her vows, diamonds fell, but she gathered them and offered them to the people. Queen Selene smiled proudly. On the day of coronation, the crown was placed upon Alira's head. The people cheered, but Alira raised her hand. "I promise," she said softly, "to rule with kindness, to listen before I speak, and to remember the forgotten." Not a single diamond fell, because her words had become greater than magic. Under Queen Alira's reign, the poor were fed, the cruel were taught compassion. Kindness became law. Prince Aaron ruled beside her, not above her. And deep in the forest, the fairy smiled. True treasure is not born of magic, but of kindness. True royalty is not worn on the head, but carried in the heart. And sometimes, the girl sent to fetch water returns as a queen. Thank you for watching.